My name is Katrina. I am doing my oral presentation for Miss Melanie's English 1101 class. I am choosing to do my oral presentation on how to make French toast. I chose this demonstration because this is one of my children's favorite breakfast dishes. Now on to the demonstration. First we will want to wash our hands, of course. So we make sure we have it nice and clean and we don't spread any germs to our little ones. Just do a thorough rinse them off. I try to do it with warm water because they always say that's better. Then you can either dry your hands off with a rag or with a paper towel. Next, I'm going to turn on the stove so we can have the pan warm up while I mix our ingredients. So the first thing I want to do is decide how many pieces of toast I'm going to need for the morning. So I'm going to pull out my bread. Next we'll want to make the mixture to coat the bread in. So what I use is 2 eggs per pieces of bread, which I have 2 pieces of bread today. So I will use 4 eggs. Just crack them open and dump them in. Try not to do any shells. That makes them a little crunchy. Next, I just add like a little pinch of the milk, not too much, just enough to make the eggs a little fluffy, and it coats your bread and makes it a little bit more fluffy. Then you can choose to add whatever you like in. If you want to add in cinnamon, which I do, you can do cinnamon and sugar, or if you want to add vanilla, it kind of gives the toast a different flavor. After I add the cinnamon, then I mix the ingredients. You just want to kind of scramble it like if you were going to scramble an egg. You just mix your fork, break up the yolk, because if you don't mix the mixture just right, it kind of leaves too much egg on the bread, and you end up more having a scrambled bread instead of French toast. Usually I'll let my children help me with this. They like to mix it up and make a mess. Next, you just want to kind of, don't touch the pan because it could burn you. Just kind of lay your hand over it to see if it's ready to spray your oil in. You can either use regular oil or cooking spray. I choose to use pan cooking spray with the olive oil. It's a little more healthier. I just take the pan a little bit off and coat the bottom only. Then after I coat the pan with Pam, I take my piece of bread and I push my bread nice and down in there. I make sure I get both sides nice and coated. And then just kind of lay it in there. And how you heard it sizzle a little bit, that allows it to brown. So we put it into the pan, and then we're going to just let it sizzle a little bit. You can look around on the corners, and you can see it's just like kind of making an egg. The egg will brown a little bit. Lets me see if it's ready. It's not ready quite yet. Okay, now we're going to flip it. Let's see. And it kind of gives it a little browning on top where you can see your egg is. And that's where I was saying if you didn't mix your egg up just right, it would look more, you'd see more white and more yolk on the egg. Sometimes, just for your first one, it always seems to take a little longer to get the oven warmed up. I carried on the tradition of making French toast because my mom, that was one of her favorite. And usually me and my husband will take turns of who's going to make it for the weekend. It's usually our Sunday morning when we all have time to make breakfast. And you just keep kind of flipping it until it'll turn brown. pieces done. And it depends on how crispy if you like your French toast. Mine like it a little bit softer. Mix it with the egg when they put their syrup on. And again, you just coat it. Let it drip off. I try not to have any white spots. If I see it, I just re-dip it. If you feel you need to add more of the spray, you can. I see there's still some in there, so I don't try to overcoat my pan. There it goes out. As you hear it sizzle, it's going to cook a little bit better. Wipe the hands off a little bit. Okay. Flip. I usually finish off with my French toast. I'll either have some fruit with it, or sometimes you can mix in with oatmeal or eggs, and which usually at the end I will show you what I do with my eggs. Instead of wasting it, I always try to conserve and use all the food that we use when we cook, and it kind of is the side dish to French toast. Now if you have powdered sugar, you can always, after you take your French toast off, is sprinkle a little bit of powdered sugar on your French toast. And I get it nice and brown on both sides. Make sure the eggs all around is very cooked so there's no running. And then after I finish with both pieces, they like both of them like a little bit of butter. And then, of course, the best topping, if you're not going to add the sugar or fruit, you add your syrup. And then after I've added the syrup and everything, and I'm ready to serve them the French toast, but before I do that, I go ahead and add a little bit more pan to the pan, and then I use the remaining eggs to make them a little bit of French toast, scrambled eggs. That's why you can option to choose to put your cinnamon in it or not. We've made it this way for so many years. They're used to having a little bit of sweetness in there from the cinnamon. And of course, just mixing the scrambled eggs, you're just moving around in the pan. When you add the cinnamon, it just makes them a little browner, the eggs, instead of your yellow fluffy. And that's why I use 2 eggs to 1 piece of toast. It's so I know I always have the extra to add the eggs, and then I top it off with the fruit and a glass of OJ and a glass of milk and coffee for me and my husband. Move it to the side. And this, ladies and gentlemen, concludes my demonstration of how to make French toast.